All right, let's make a knife. So using a pencil, you just kind of trace out the shape of the tang or the blade. You're going to make some termination points of where you want the handle to stop. You're going to roughly cut this out with your scroll saw. Rough is the key word. Leave yourself some excess. Now we're going to go ahead and dry fit again, marking where we want that to terminate. Draw a rough shape. The shape drastically changed from the video. And then I'll show you again. Here's what it actually ended up looking like. A big difference from that half circle I did before. And we're going to not rough, but we're going to precisely cut this out because you can't revisit that. And the spindle sander, you want to make sure that you really clean this part up the first time around because you can't do it again. Once it's on the blade, you can't really get in there to sand it. So using some double-sided tape, we're going to go ahead and clean that up using just a utility blade. And we're going to cut the double-sided tape so that it's uniform with the blade so that we're not gumming up our sander when we sand down and clean up the rest of the blade. Now we're going to cover the blade with some more double-sided tape. And that's so you don't cut yourself or get jabbed when you're doing it. And I used frog tape, which if you haven't used it, you should probably check it out. It's like Post-it note. It just pulls off. But it's super sticky and it stays really well. I love it. So cover up your blade. You're in good shape. And we start sanding. So this part was really fast until I hit the metal on the blade and dulled the sandpaper. Then I had to flip it over. But basically, you're just going to clean up that shape. And eventually, you're going to hit the metal the whole way around to make it uniform and perfectly flat. Now in this next shot, you're going to see how much material you can actually remove pretty rapidly on these spindle sanders. So it's not like you're spending a lot of time, maybe like 10 minutes most sanding this part of it. Really easy. So you're going to scrape off the one scale to get ready to drill. And you don't have to get as crazy as I did there, but you drill down where you're going to put your pins at. And you want to make sure you have a scrap piece underneath there, like I didn't because I had a little bit of tear out, but reattach with some more double-sided tape. Make sure you really set this part up close because mine was off by like a 30-second. It was visible at the end. And you just kind of go back through the top hole and plunge into the other part, and you're good. Now we're going to scrape all the double-sided tape off and really clean this up because the next step is epoxy, and you got to make sure that all that residue is off, and you're ready for this stuff. Now the epoxy is DevCon 60-second. I don't know why I got that. I had to like rush through this step. I wish I would have got a little bit slower setting, but I got a clear one. It's the only one they had at the hardware store, and I went pretty liberal with it. I set the pins first. They're just loosely in there, and then I applied some more. Now I made sure I got a lot around the pins because once you clamp it, you want to make sure that epoxy gets in those voids because those pins are what's going to stop the handles from shifting. And there you are. Counter set both sides of the pins so that they're on, like you can cut them flush like this and you just clamp everything together. But that's just like a hacksaw. I don't even know where I got that. It's like a one-ended hacksaw and it works really well for this, but sanding. Yeah, so I skipped a lot of the sanding parts of this. I kind of just sanded to 220 and just cleaned everything up. And then I got the spindle or the palm router with Whiteside's 1980 1/8" roundover bit. And we just kind of run that right along there and take off an 1/8" to give us that cool little crown. Looks really cool. Now, here's the cool part. This is the funky pigment. So we're using medium green Transfast water-based pigment dye. And it's a two-part thing that what we're doing. And I also added in ebony just to give a little bit more of a hint, but I don't have a video of that. And you just kind of slosh it around on there. And pretty much as soon as it hits the wood, it dyes it. So you don't have to like soak it or do anything crazy. And I wiped it off and I switched over to this color called Cherry, same company, Transfast. And look at that. It gives you this really cool hue. And yeah, that's all I had to do for the color. Now, I did add ebony, like I said. I don't have that. But this step here, I'm just using Gator Finishings 800 grit sandpaper to just polish up that steel, give it a nice mirror shine. And you really don't want to hit the wood too much because the next step, the Armor Seal recommends you don't go past 220, and then you polish afterwards. So there's some Armor Seal. Put that on, sand in between, get that polished up real nice, and that's it. Super cool handle. I think my dad's going to like it, and I hope this video helped you. Take care.